the first pick.
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of On the Clock. On the Clock is presented by our friends at Titan Bat Company. If you're looking for the highest quality handcrafted wood bats in the game, Titan Bats has you covered with premium maple, ash, and birch game bats in 10 different models and colors to fit your swinging style. As you're gearing up for the spring season, Titan Bats is the perfect option for your next wood bat. In addition to game bats ranging from youth baseball to softball to men's baseball, Titan Bats also offers award bats to make the perfect gift to celebrate a teammate, coach, or baseball fan in your life. Check them out at titanbats.com and use the code JB15 for 15% off your first order. All right, I'm Jared. That's Monty. We got Elmo, a.k.a. Tyler, over here. Week two's wrapped up. Monty's out at Jacksonville, Florida for the Jacks Baseball Classic. Tyler was out at Indiana, so we had a bunch of guys out at the games this weekend. Sorry, you're not in Indiana, but you're in Cary, North Carolina. Indiana's playing at the USA Baseball facility. I saw Monty looking at me weird over there.
That's why. Yep, you caught why.
Yeah. So we also have the first college baseball top 25 update. We can kind of go through real quick who is in and out. So Arizona Wildcats was our number 18 team. They're out. NC State Wolfpack, our number 19 team, also out. Number 23, Oklahoma State, also out. Number 25, Indiana Hoosiers, out. Who's in? We have the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets coming in at number 25. We have Louisville Cardinals coming in at number 22. Ole Miss, number 21, and UCSB at number 20. And we got lots of reactions from Monty, so I'm going to let you go first.
I ranked three of those teams. I did not. I forgot about Ole Miss and what they did on opening weekend. What did they do this weekend?
They won a lot of baseball.
Took care of business.
Yeah, I believe so.
I mean, they couldn't have a lot of baseball games. Three or four is the most they could have won. So
yeah, no, they're 6-1 now. And I think they only had Eastern Kentucky this weekend, so not a big challenge.
Yeah. No, Louisville I thought was really impressive. I really liked what I saw from them. They, unlike last year, it felt like they were a Don McDonald team again, and that felt pretty good to see because last year I think they had a really talented team. Not great pitching, but it never felt like they could really find that identity. So I was pleased to see that we had ranked them. Obviously, I was very excited about Georgia Tech. I had them as a preseason number 22, I think. So the pitching they've been putting on over the first couple of games, absolutely insane. The one loss they had is because their vaunted bats didn't come to life, which is mind-boggling to me. I was following the stat broadcast. I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but someone needs to wake up the Georgia Tech bats.
Yeah. Tyler, as our resident NC State guy, talk about the Wolfpack falling out of the top 25. What's the reasoning? Why are they no longer a top 25 team?
Well, first things first. You mentioned me being Elmo at the start of the show. You didn't even let me finish my Elmo before we started recording this. I'm sitting here in the middle of it, and then all of a sudden I hear the intro video play, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm just not going to finish this. But, yeah, I think best way to put it, NC State 0-4 this week, lost to Liberty in the midweek after blowing it. Jacob Duden's been a bit off to start the year. Command issues. They have been a thing beforehand. They were an issue last year, and it's really kind of turned head this year. And that obviously sucks because, Monty, correct me if I'm wrong, Derek Smith's out with an injury as well.
Yeah, undisclosed injury, yeah.
Yeah, so that's
I will say Elliot did just talk about Duden in the press conference tonight. And that he didn't pitch poorly against Liberty, but then he was doubting himself, which that seems a little bit. I mean, he had no command of his fastball on Tuesday, so he had to throw like 18 straight sliders. So, but he was basically saying it was mostly mental, and he was doubting himself. And if he could tell Duden anything, he'd tell him to start watching the last 2 months of last season over and over again to regain that confidence. So I just wanted to throw that in there since you brought that up, because I was concerned that it might be a delivery thing. I was curious what they were seeing with him, but it sounds like it's kind of a mental self-doubting moment considering how good he was last year. And then he got punched in the mouth a little bit on Tuesday, and then it carried over into today's outing.
Gotcha. That makes sense. As somebody that doubts himself quite often, I know the feeling. So Jacob, if you have any questions, I'm here to reach out. I am also here to help. So other thing, also NC State, like the Bats were just not awake this week, especially in Jacksonville. Want to say they lost 8-3 Friday. I want to say it was like 6-2 yesterday, 4-0. Okay. And then they lost to Coastal today. So not the greatest offensive performance, but just looking at what it is, it's a bunch of it's a really new lineup, pretty young as well. You look at the catalyst of that lineup with Alex Sosa. He's a sophomore. This is a team that lost a lot of pieces last year. Makarevich, Pennington, Cozart were all gone, just to name a few. So you look at what they've lost and what they have to bring in. There was a ton of roster turnover. So you're going to have these growing pains to start. So, kind of look at it now, let it happen now, and kind of see what happens the rest of the year. But, 0-4,
not great. No.
Here's the thing. I think they're going to hit because Elliott Avent teams always hit. It's just how much are they going to have to go through before that happens? And again, he said it's a lot of mental stuff because like last year you had these established leaders like Makarevich and Pennington, and even when they struggled, they were able to not doubt themselves. And then, some of that's coming over to the offensive side, he said, and then he's like, some of our leaders on this team are struggling. So they're looking internally, trying to fix themselves, and they're not able to, do what help the rest of the team. So you're kind of having a little bit, I don't want to say leaderless locker room a bit with that, but you're missing that Makarevich, that Cozart, that Pennington, who all had 3+ years of starting experience. Makarevich, was the most experienced player in college baseball last year. And, he knew that a little bit of a struggle is going to happen. He wasn't necessarily going to melt down over it and was able to really be a leader in that locker room. And they're kind of missing that right now.
Absolutely agree with that. But I'll put the bias aside. I didn't rank them this week. So I guess that's improvement, Aaron Fitt, if you're watching this.
I think a good reminder for everybody too. It's early in the season, right? Like the NC State gets hot, they could find themselves way right back into the top 25. Swanee sneaks food and try to sneakily without no one knowing. And it's the same kind of for all these 4 teams that dropped out. I'd say the Wildcats are very talented. They had a struggle. And the 2 teams they lost to, Ole Miss and Louisville, both are ranked now, right, in our top 25. They went and won 4 straight after the Shriners weekend. Again, granted, against New Mexico and San Diego. But if you want to start turning things around, like that's how you got to do it. And I think the Wildcats are probably the one team that dropped out that could be quickly right back in our top 25. Tyler, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. You saw them that weekend as well with us.
Which weekend again?
Shriners, Arizona.
Oh, yeah. I think the biggest thing when you look – I was not paying attention, Monty, first off.
Which weekend were you at stuff?
I was enjoying a taco, okay? Taco had priority. I was. But yeah, food. Talking about – okay, Monty, okay. Anyways – tangent aside, looking at what Arizona had, like they had a good start from Colin McKinney on Friday in Dallas. Lost a 2-1 pitcher's duel, essentially to Hunter Elliott and the Ole Miss team. I think Mason Morris was also another guy that threw pretty big innings for that team as well. But then he just got destroyed in this couple of days. Kremkowski allowed 7 earned runs in the first inning. Smith Bailey looked amazing Sunday. They pulled him out. Next thing you know, they're getting jumped for a cricket number by, was it Ole Miss that they played on Sunday?
No, they played, they went Ole Miss. Was it Clemson? Louisville?
Was it Louisville?
Clemson.
Yeah, it was Louisville.
So.
Louisville, okay.
Clemson was Saturday when they dropped 7 or 8 on them in the first inning.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's definitely a tough going into neutral site being outscored. I think it was like 31-7. That's going 0-3 and having that big of a run differential. Yeah, you're going to drop out of the top 10, but they bounced back. I'm pretty sure they won their series against San Diego at home.
Yep.
I know they shut them out on Friday.
They swept them. Yeah,
they swept them. Cool. Yeah. So that's good for Arizona, and like they've got some pieces coming around. I'm going to mispronounce this because it's a French name, but Mathis Morant really had a pretty good weekend. Okay, there you go. You get the French in here.
You make me want to go wee.
Oh boy,
Mine's off the rails. He's tired.
Go ahead, Todd.
I want to kind of, Monty, shift to you. We'll go back to the teams I dropped off, Tyler, because I know you saw Indiana this weekend and I want to get some of your thoughts there. But two teams that I know you're high on. One, you just saw Alabama at the Jacks Classic this weekend, absolutely dominated everyone. So let's talk about them first, and then we'll get into your fan favorite, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I was blown away by Alabama. The first thing first is I got there on Thursday. I was hanging out with Jack DeLongchamp and Darren Vaught, who were on the TV broadcast for D1, and obviously they both work for D1. But so I was able to tag along with them as they were trying to kind of get some of their background information. And we talked to Rob Vaughn for like an hour during their practice on Thursday, and I'm ready to run through a wall for that guy before a pitch is even thrown. So, I mean, he's a heck of a manager and coach. Really excited for that guy. He tells it how it is, and has some great players. And we were trying to highlight some under the radar guys. And what I loved about that is he pointed out two guys, Brennan Norton and Will Hodo. And they came back 10-0 today. Guess who hit the walk-off home run? Will Hodo. And then Brennan Norton had big hits and was on the all-tournament team as well. He had been in the press conference 2 of the 3 nights. So, I mean, it was just really cool to watch him. But the pitching staff was really, really good. They're trying to get Riley Quick back from that surgery, and he was able to pitch 4 really dominant innings against NC State. And, you know, it's a team that I think can do damage in the SEC. But, you know, just like with an Auburn from last year, you got to make sure that if you do get punched in the mouth, you could respond. And I think we saw that just today in kind of a mini version. They go down 10-0 to Ohio State, who, by the way, blew me away this weekend as well, even though they went 1-2. But they go down 10-0 and they come all the way back and win that game. And the post-game quote that really stuck with me, I shared it with you, Jared. He goes, toughness is when you can do your job when the rest of the world around you is burning down. And I was just like, he said that to them and to his team when they were down 10-0 and they just chipped away. And he also told them, hey, we're not always gonna be able to come back like that, but it's important to keep chipping away. But I just thought that was, you know, such a really important thing from a team, because that's something they're going to need, because they play in the SEC. They are going to get punched in the mouth at some point. Somebody is going to destroy them, right? You know, that's just the way the SEC is. You know, it's going to happen to Texas A&M even, or Tennessee is the number 1 or number 2 team. It's how you respond to that and prevent, you know, from spiraling out of control. So, you know, I think we saw a microcosm of what they could do today with they got down. Granted, they're not always going to come back, but it's important that they're able to, you know, prevent a complete meltdown.
Yeah, and Tyler and I had Coach Vaughn on too, like in the preseason, and just like you said it kind of got hit right on the head. Like, amazing dude. Like, who doesn't want to play for that guy? Like, it was the same thing when he was at Maryland as well. He took that team to a regional for the first time, I think, in like the program's history. So, like, he's a guy who wins. He's got the mentality, like the players' coach mentality, and it's just awesome to kind of see them skyrocket. They're going from 24 on our list all the way up to 16, which I think they're the biggest riser for us in our top 25. Another team that you love that entered the top 25, replacing Indiana in that 25 slot, is the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. I know we talked about this a little bit last week when we did our recap, but talk about that pitching staff, that bullpen, just how electric that team is right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long it's been for Georgia Tech, but that pitching staff has not been very good consistently. They've had guys with all the talent, but not being able to put it together, which sometimes looks negatively on the coaching staff. But, you know, Matt Taylor's in his second year, so, you know, that's a big stage for coaches, you know, as you're able to really implement your system. But Tate McKee is very good. He still is a little bit inconsistent, but you've got your ace basically, and you're still trying to figure out what's going on behind him. You know, Brady Jones didn't have the best first start, but then he was really good yesterday. Riley Stanford was pretty good last week, but then he hit like 5 batters today. So it's just finding that out, but the bullpen has been electric. I mean, Mason Patel this week alone, I think, pitched 8.1 innings and had 11 strikeouts, no runs. At one point in the midweek, he had retired 16 in a row. I think we talked about that. And so, I mean, that's just one arm they've got coming out of the bullpen, and they've got a bevy of them and some of these really good freshmen. I got the guy who was doing the color call for the Georgia Tech game today texted me and was like, freshman Cole Royer's slider is disgusting. I was like, welcome to the club. You know, and then you had Alex Hernandez shifting to the pitching staff to the offense. Alex Hernandez, a freshman, he hit another home run today. He has a grand slam this weekend. Drew Rogers, they love the name Drew in Georgia Tech. He had his first home run of the year. And they're doing all this without John Giesler's health being healthy, who is a very, very important part of this team.
That's crazy. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and Burris hasn't been particularly red hot either. I mean, he's made a lot of highlight plays, but I guarantee you if I asked him, he would not necessarily be pleased with his overall numbers, but he is still making some pretty important game-changing plays. It's just probably not where he'd like to be. He hasn't really gotten that chance to get red hot yet.
Yeah. Well, he did have that walk-off grand slam a week ago. That was nice.
Yep. And he did go through. He did go 3 for 3 on Friday.
Yeah, I love it. Tyler, let's talk about the team that Georgia Tech replaced, Indiana. They had a really tough time in week 1 at I think it's like the Sanderson Ford College Classic or something in Surprise, Arizona. And they lost Xavier, lost UNLV twice, lost to Oregon State. So went 0-4 for the entire weekend, but they went to Cary this weekend and got 2 wins. I guess, again, not against great competition, but what did you see kind of the difference for them this weekend versus last?
It's more of the bats showing up this week compared to what they were last week. Looking at what they had last week, I want to say they scored, 6 to 8. So like it was 20 runs of offense. But the pitching staff's kind of just not there. They gave up 13 to UNLV. They got shut out against Oregon State, which I believe may have been either the Dax Whitney game or is it Ethan Bauerschmidt? No, Ethan Kleinschmidt start where he threw 6 hitless. So there was a lot of stuff to kind of look at with Indiana. It was a lot of slow starts. Devin Taylor was hitting like 235 coming into this weekend. Jason Oliver wasn't hitting. And those are 2 big pieces of the puzzle for Indiana. And when you look at Indiana, their bats are pretty impressive. Like just looking at what they had today, just like in a row, 5 in a row. Devin Taylor, Corbin Dickerson. You put Andrew Wiggins. He pinch hit early yesterday. Hit a ball at 110 and then gets a start in right field today and hits cleanup. And then you also look at Tyler Cerny, Jason Oliver, Jake Hanley's a freshman that looks really good at the plate to start the year. So they've got the pieces to really look good. It's just the pitching is the big question mark. They got some good starts out of Cole Gilly and Gavin Siebold the past 2 days. And there's some interesting pieces in that bullpen. Seth Benez, I believe is his name. It's a 26 eligible guy who is up to 94 with a hammer. And there's some other guys. There's a pretty interesting lefty today too with some funkiness to his delivery. So kind of just looking at what they have. I think once we get the Big Ten play, they'll start to look more like themselves. Like Devin Taylor today alone. And mind you, like the games were pushed back a day because of snow this week. So like it's a Saturday, Sunday, Monday compared to the usual Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Devin Taylor went 3 for 5 with double home run triple. After having kind of like a iffy day yesterday, he had 3 walks, but also struck out once or twice. Didn't have a ball left the infield, but you look at what he did today. Went backside twice for the double and the home run. Hit another ball to the warning track in left field, and then hit a laser of a triple at 108 off the bat. So, having Devin Taylor return to that kind of prowess is going to be big for this ball club. If he can really get the slow start out of the way and continue to look like he did today, I think there's a good chance that Indiana is going to make some noise once we start Big Ten play here in a couple weeks, because they go to Penn State, they go to Happy Valley, which they have Paxton Kling, who just won our hitter of the week for hitting 3 home runs in a doubleheader and also adding another one today.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about Paxton here in a second. I agree with you on Indiana. It's like when you look at that first weekend, Jason Oliver, I think, and Devin Taylor had like 4 or 5 hits total combined. And so like if those two guys aren't going, like that lineup's definitely going to struggle.
Hey, Jared.
Hmm.
Tyler and I get to see Penn State this week.
You do. You're going to have a great time.
Yeah, just wanted to let you know that.
I'll be busy out at Maine versus George Washington. Be jealous.
There you go.
I'm getting Cam Keys. That's going to be a great time.
Gambino.
So we talked about the biggest riser in Alabama. Let's talk about the biggest faller on our list. It's the Duke Blue Devils. I believe in our preseason rank that they were at 10, and they are now dropped to, I want to say 19.
It was 19 or 20, I think.
Yeah, 19 or 20. How concerned are we about Duke? Tyler, I'll kick it off to you. I know you've got a long working history at Duke. Monty, you too. So we'll go with Tyler and then you.
Yeah, I think when you look at what happened last weekend with Cincinnati, like Cincinnati is an underrated ball club. I think they're one of the middle of the pack Big 12 teams that have the ceiling to be really good. When you look at Carrington Cross, Christian Michel, and they have a couple of good arms too. But, you know, you look at what they did last week. Yeah, they lost the series. They had a walk-off to kind of salvage something out of that, and then they got blown out Sunday. But I think the biggest cause for concern was being hitless against Cornell through like the 7th, which was really concerning to look at. But then they bounced back. You know, they scored 8 runs. They actually made it a game. It was like 10-0 in the 7th before Ben Miller went yard. Sam Harris had a double. And I think they ended up with it was like 11-8. And then fast forward the next 2 days, they look like vintage Duke. It looks like there's some sort of confidence boost that they got from kind of clawing back to nearly win that Friday game to now they proceeded to go 16-2 and 18-1 against Cornell. So they scored 34 runs compared to 3. So there's something there. And like you mentioned it earlier with teams getting a slow start, Duke's definitely one of them. AJ Gracia had like 1 hit before Friday, and it was concerning to see, but he wasn't striking out. It was just a lot of batted ball, bad luck. And now we kind of look at it. He hit his first home run yesterday, and the offense is really starting to turn around. Like Sam Harris finally has his first collegiate home run. Shout out Sam Harris. He's going to be really, really powerful this year. And I really do think that as we get closer, I think they get Campbell in Bowie's Creek. They get Liberty at home, and then they get Northwestern because Northwestern's on like a North Carolina trip during the cold weather season. So there's a chance for them to bounce back this week. They got 5 games, and if they go 5-0, I could totally see his team climbing back up the rankings a little bit.
Yeah. Bonnie, I'll shift to you. I know you've seen Duke quite a bit as well, and we're paying attention to kind of the beginning of their season. What are some of your thoughts on the Blue Devils?
I was there for all 3 games against Cincinnati, so froze my butt off for the walk-off. Wallace Clark, shout out to you, buddy. No, I think they're going to be fine. I'm not actually that worried after this weekend. I was a little worried when we got to the 7th inning, but then as soon as they got like 8 runs and then broke out the last 2 days, I'm like, okay, they're good now. I think they needed it was more, I mean, again, Cincinnati is a pesky, scrappy, obnoxious baseball team that is going to play clean and also get in your head. And that's exactly what they did. And Duke didn't play particularly well in that series. There were a lot of self-inflicted wounds, not a lot of great pitchers hitting them spots. AJ Gracia, I mean, yeah, he wasn't striking out, but not particularly great. Ben Miller, other than his home run opening weekend, wasn't particularly great. It was really Wallace Clark and Tyler Albright at the bottom of the order, and then I got blamed. I got yelled at by the SID because he thinks it's my fault that Wallace Clark got moved to the top of the order. But he's doing great there. So maybe I should be getting credit instead of blame. Just saying. But no, I think it's really great. By the way, Pollard, now the all-time winningest head coach in Duke baseball history. I thought that was pretty messed up that they went hitless for for the first 7 innings when that was on the line. But But yeah, no, I think they're going to be fine. KJ, we need to talk about him. He's got 3 home runs already, guys.
Yeah, it's nice.
I mean, that's your ace.
Yeah, it's just
who
dropping
is
tanks.
He's dropping tanks. So he seems to have added some power because I know he hit pretty well last year, but I want to say he only had like 1 or 2 home runs. So the fact that he's already blasted 3 shows I don't know when he's gotten the time to improve his hitting and his his power, but apparently he's found some time. So that's also really encouraging because he's going to hit towards the bottom of the order, and then all of a sudden you've got this power threat at the bottom of the order, and so that's Sam Harris going to hit towards the bottom of the order. So you got some guys who are just going to just crush baseballs, and you can't overlook them. So I think they're going to be fine. The pitching staff just has to settle in a little bit, and then of course the bats need to keep going like they've been going.
Yeah, I agree. Last story we got to talk about in terms of the top 25. We have a new number 1. We probably should have kicked off with this, thinking about it. But the Tennessee Volunteers are now the number 1 overall team in our top 25. Well, Monty voted for Texas A&M again.
Yeah,
we
I was
questions.
the lone. So yeah, I was the lone one. I didn't think one loss should have taken him out, but it's also Tennessee's undefeated, so I guess it's really not a big deal that we went Tennessee number 1. The reason I kept Texas A&M number 1 is I thought one loss wasn't necessarily that big a deal, but it's early in the season, so you're trying to find any type of separation, right?
Yeah, and I think the thing for me, I'm usually the same, right? Like one loss isn't going to like make or break a team for me. I think it was more of how easily Tennessee dominated the 2 teams they played, regardless. Like they're not great teams, but Texas A&M like struggled a little bit with Cal Poly. Cal Poly played them.
Cal Poly, to be fair,
okay.
is not compared to the team Tennessee was playing, right?
Yes, yeah, they're better, definitely better.
Yeah.
But
still a team that should have been taken care of.
Yeah. They won the first game 6-1, but I think the Aggies only had a 1-0 lead through 4 in that. And then the second game, I believe that I can't remember what it was, but I think they won 4-3, and then they eventually lost the third game 3-2. So they were all close games except for the first one. And I mean, the Cal Poly's pitching staff really helped. That's the thing I think that got me is like Cal Poly was able to hold that powerful Texas A&M lineup to very, very close games. And so I think that was kind of the separator for me. The pitching staff still looked great for the Aggies. Like Miles Patton went 7 innings, struck out 8. I don't think he gave up a run today. And so like it's just like the talent's there. Like I'm not dropping them more than one spot because of one loss. And then just the way that Tennessee just absolutely destroyed everybody that they played just kind of had me put them at the top. Tyler, for you, what made you put Tennessee at number 1?
Kind of the same reason why I had them there to begin the season is like they have reloaded. And in kind of an unconventional way too. Like you look at the guys that have stepped up. Levi Clark yesterday, the game, the go-ahead grand slam in the 7th inning against Stanford, which granted, Stanford, yes, it's mid-major. You should be beating them easily, but Stanford's a really good mid-major team. They were held in check by Cameron Keyshock, who's an Auburn transfer. I think he pitched like 5 innings, walked 2, struck out 1, but it kept them limited to 1 run. And you look at what Tennessee was able to do after that. Claw back from a 3-1, 3-2 deficit, get it tied in the 7th, and then Levi Clark just blew the game open. So looking at what they have freshman-wise, like Levi Clark being the standout, Jay Abernathy's been hitting really well on the lineup. So they've reloaded pretty well. And that's not to mention, obviously, the guys that came in the portal. Like Liam Doyle now is sitting like 96 on the fastball, reaching back for 99. And he's an interesting draft guy to even talk about like later on. Like, do you see him being a first rounder? I think there's the arm talents there. I want to see some secondary stuff to kind of work itself out. And I think it's a lot of reliever-ish looks too, like very, very efforty. He's also 75% fastball. He's got a decent split, but the breaking balls I want to see more of to kind of like, where is he at right now? You know, it's week 2. He struck out 14 yesterday, and he had like 11 beforehand. So he's got 25 strikeouts in 10 innings, something like that.
Good.
And he's only walked like 1 or 2. That fastball is so explosive that it's probably easily the best fastball in the draft. There's no offense or buts about it, but is he better than any of the other guys like Patrick Forbes, who we'll probably talk about later with that Louisville squad? Matt Scott turned in a pretty good performance this week. So you look at what he's been doing for this ball club under tutelage of Frank Anderson. Brandon Arvidsson looked good in a small sample size today. And Tanner Franklin from Kennesaw State comes over, and now he struck out 6 in like 2 2/3 the other day to kind of close out that game after Doyle. So Tennessee has some really, really good firepower on both sides of the ball, and that's even without like AJ Russell in the mix. Alberto is we're still waiting to hear what the ruling is on him for his eligibility this season. So there's still question marks to be answered on those fronts, but what they have right now is a high caliber offense with firepower in the bullpen, in the rotation. Because even after Doyle, like you look at Marcus Phillips has been doing pretty well recently. Mentioned Arvidsson today, the JUCO transfer that looks like he's going to have at least a rotation spot through middle of the season at this point as Russell kind of works his way back. But it's a really, really talented group in Knoxville. Again, shocker. And they've just been pummeling the competition so far.
Yeah. I completely agree, but Monty's going to tell us why we're wrong, and Texas A&M is number 1.
Hit me, buddy. Hit me.
I actually had another question. I was curious what you guys' thoughts is Michael Early, like, what's it like for him? I mean, it's got to be a lot of pressure on a first-year head coach.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I don't want to ask. I'm trying to figure out how to word the question without it sounding rude, because it's like, is he in over his head? And that's not what I'm trying to ask, but like, is he in over his head? Yeah. So it's just interesting to see. It's definitely interesting because I've seen some non-playing things coming out of Texas A&M that's kind of interesting. They didn't want to make players available in a loss, which is not an uncommon thing, but they put it in writing, which is a very uncommon thing.
Yeah.
To make it a policy is very different. And I was hearing from fellow SIDs who are like, that's ridiculous. Which is funny because these SIDs are their fellow SIDs that also protect the students when they lose and will also hold them back. But doing it in writing is, it's an interesting policy change. So there's a lot going on there in Texas A&M besides what's going on the field. So it's going to be interesting to see how Michael Early continues to adapt to the first head coaching job he's had, plus the expectations that come with Texas A&M being that preseason number 1. Maybe this loss against Cal Poly takes a little bit of the pressure off, because now, we might not be the only team that's going to do, or the only group that's going to rank Tennessee number 1. That maybe takes a little bit of the pressure off, as, now the target's going to be on the Vols back, which already kind of was because they were the defending national champions.
Yeah, to add on to what you mean there too is like you look at the loss today, the monkey's off the bat. The first loss is gone and it's done. But you also kind of look at some of the bats in the lineup too. Like obviously Sorrell's not in the lineup; he's been hurt to start the year. But Jace Laviolette only has 4 hits to his name so far this year. I believe yesterday he went 0-for-4 with 3 strikeouts. His only hits have been 3 home runs and a double. So he's off to a slow start. I think Grahovic's been the same deal. So you look at the 2 biggest bats in that lineup are currently off to slow starts, which, we've said it before, like this, it's good to have this now instead of, middle SEC play. But
I've also heard like Caden Kent is a little bit defensively, like not playing great shortstop as well.
Yeah, he's been
I just thought like that. Sorry to interrupt, Tyler.
No, you're good. That kind of puts into perspective kind of the struggles to see starting early on here. So I think they'll figure it out. It's the first 2 weeks of the season. It's not a panic button moment yet, but if this is still going on, like to start SEC play, that's when I would start to have a bit of concern, because Texas A&M has a really stupidly hard lineup this year.
Yeah,
probably just put it correctly. I know at one point they get Texas at home in I think late April or something like that, and I want to say, let me see what their schedule is. Let's see here, because I know they get Tennessee.
Yeah, SEC play is not going to be fun.
But. Yeah, so like this upcoming weekend, when you look at what they have, like Arizona, Oklahoma State, Rice, Tennessee is also in that bunch, but I don't think they play them. And then You get Alabama at home to start SEC play. Then you go to Vandy. Then you get Kentucky. Then you go to Tennessee. Then you get South Carolina at home, which South Carolina can be a sneaky team despite the kind of struggles to start the year. Then you go to Arkansas. Then you go to Texas, actually. So it's not at home. And then you get LSU to kind of come in after. Then you get like a little bit of a breather with Missouri. No offense to Missouri, but it's not been the greatest start to the year. Then you go to Georgia to end out the regular season. So like that away schedule is brutal for Texas A&M.
Yeah, and
I'd like to point out that I don't think there's an easy slate in the SEC unless you're playing Missouri every week. What about the teams what about the poor teams that are avoiding Missouri? How pissed do you think they are right now?
You talk about offense to Missouri. Jeez,
yeah.
Oh man,
they lost to Alabama State 10-1.
Missouri SID is going to be reaching out to us and be like, "Hey, have some respect for this team."
Oh, we're about to get a very
I believe I believe in the future of Missouri, but the present, it's not great. It's not a gift.
We've just gone into a Missouri tangent when we're talking about Texas A&M.
You're welcome. The Monty effect.
But no, I agree with both of you. I kind of like the toughness of the schedule too. One, and then two, it's like Monty, to your point. You talk about having a ton of attention on a team like before the season even started, right? Like you have your head coach leave for Texas. Like the biggest news story all off season was Texas and Texas A&M. And then Early comes in, gets all the guys back. Then you, like you said, you have Jace Laviolette, who was the number one college player coming into the season. So it's like now you have that kind of attention on your team as well. And it's like, how do you juggle all that? And then you talk about some of the moves they're making with like the not allowing interviews after a loss. So it's a lot to juggle as a first-year coach, and it's going to be interesting to see how he navigates it, especially when SEC's play starts. Good times. Do we have any? What's that?
I was just apologizing to Missouri.
And we're sorry, Missouri. We love you. We'll do a whole ballpark tour with you one day. It'll be great.
Max Scherzer.
Do we have any other top 25 teams you want to touch on before we kind of move on to?
Should we talk a little bit about Virginia and the offense still not kind of getting going? I mean, they didn't score a ton of runs against Oregon State. They did win yesterday against Minnesota, but that was a 4-2 ball game.
I saw in the game today against Oklahoma too. Harrison Didewick is bunting to score runs. So, I mean, they're doing everything they can.
By the way, that's just Virginia baseball, baby.
Yeah.
I was about to say that is 100% Virginia.
That is. I know. Oak sometimes I think forgets that he's got big boppers now and he doesn't have to play small ball, but I love it. I love it.
He's like, he hit 25 bombs or whatever last year. That's bunt. And they scored, I think, 1 or 2 runs because I think there was like a fielding error or something, and they scored 2 off of it.
I don't hate bunting in college baseball because the defenders are not quite as good as major leaguers, and you'll have a lot more opportunities. Whereas it's more of a free out in MLB for sure. But yeah, it is funny. It's old school Virginia baseball, even though they've got guys that can hit monster home runs. But their lineup has not impressed me so far. Their pitching's been pretty good, but the lineup that we thought was so stacked, to bring up Avent again, and he did this yesterday, but he reminded me, and I for some reason I can remember this when the MLB season starts, but when college baseball season starts, it goes out the window. But pitchers are farther along than hitters at this point in the season, and I don't know why I don't remember that for college, but I do remember it when opening day comes by.
Yeah.
By the way, to bring up Virginia, they are currently bottom 10, tied at 4 against Oklahoma right now.
Yikes. Not great. But, I mean, Oklahoma's been crushing everybody at this point. So, they're our number 18 team now. But, yeah, I mean, I agree on Virginia. Like, what we saw this fall, Monty, when we were out watching them in scrimmage, they put up, like, 15-plus runs, like, every time they were playing, no matter who they were playing. And I get it. It's fall. Like, everybody's trying to get their feet under them. But every analyst you see in college baseball is saying this is like the top lineup in the country, including us. And like, I still think it is. You just like, we've talked about like same issues with Duke and Texas A&M. Like the lineups just have to get it together and start finding some success and some heat.
And at this point,
we lost Amani. He's got a very stern look on his face, frozen though.
Can I take a screenshot of this?
Yes.
Okay.
We didn't get anything he said.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
no, I'm fine. Oh, I've been talking this whole time.
Yeah.
Yes, you
I
have.
just dropped the best source.
Uh,
All right, Jared, you got some work cut out for you on this edit.
yeah, we don't know any of your thoughts on Virginia, by the way.
Fantastic.
We know some of them, like at the beginning, but then after that, we got nothing.
I did tell you that the internet was shaky over here.
I
You're
know.
like, I got it. Jared's
Also,
like, I'm a wizard.
We're 1,000% leaving this in. We're just gonna go with it. It's rolling.
I love that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's real. It's raw. We're real people. We're genuine.
Yeah.
We're not going to try.
Mistakes are gonna happen.
Yeah.
You get to
but
hear
no,
me
Virginia-
say how much I wanted to screenshot your face.
But no, what I said was is with Virginia, it could be mental. You know, obviously, like the thing is for these guys to remember that they're good and not try to press too much, because if you press, it's going to take longer to get going, and that's when you could really ruin a season.
Yeah, but I know this is on the pitching side, but they still haven't had Evan Blanco either. So
He is going to pitch the midweek.
is he? He's gonna
Yep.
Tuesday. Nice.
Yeah, that was confirmed by Oak in the press conference Friday night.
Awesome. Love to hear that.
Which was very important, because I made sure Micah was there, and I made sure Micah got that info.
Amazing. Any other stories want to talk about before we get into like the player pitcher of the week? We've had some insane scoring games like Maryland and UConn. Jamie Arnold, of course, electric as always. I don't know.
I mean, the thing I would just want to mention about Jamie Arnold is just so routinely dominant.
Yeah.
I mean, he just goes out, throws his 5 innings, throws 64 pitches, and is like, yeah, I just struck out 8, walked none, gave up 2 hits or 1 hit. I think it was 1 hit, and was like, all right, I'm going now. I'm done.
Didn't they win like 24-0 in that game too?
24-2. I think the bullpen gave up some runs. But yeah, and what's crazy about the offensive output in that game, they had 20 hits and 19 of them were singles.
Yeah.
Drew
That's
Farrow hit a home run, and that was the only extra base hit.
That's wild.
But could you imagine the Ivy League just started, and like Penn's like, you know what? Why don't we schedule Jamie Arnold as our first game?
See what
I
happens.
thought they were supposed to be smart.
Hey. As somebody that's seen Harvard out here, Harvard knows how to tailgate.
Yeah.
Smart.
Oh, by the way, I've
smart
now
people-
insulted Missouri and not Harvard.
The smart people know how to party. Also, season stats on Jamie Arnold to start the year through 2 starts, 11 innings, 0 runs, 0 walks, which is probably the biggest thing here. 3 hits allowed, 16 strikeouts, and
that's what I'm saying. So routinely dominant that it's like it's just so casually dominant that like you don't even realize it. Like the fact that Tyler just looked those stats up and was like, "Oh, that's crazy. How have I not heard?" It's because it was so routine, so quiet. Again, he threw 64 pitches. That's all he threw, and then he's like, "I'm done. The offense has got this. I'll rest for ACC play."
Right.
And
like even to compare it to like Tyler Bremner, because obviously he came out last week. Bremner's also still walked 0 guys, but is still kind of working his way back up after coming out last week. So like, to be honest with you, like Jamie Arnold's probably the #1 player in the class now. Not a spoiler or anything for the next board update, but like that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Yeah. It's hard not to, man. Like it's absolute dominance.
The only reason he's not like winning ACC pitcher of the week is he's just doing it, going out and doing 5-6 innings, and he's done. He's like, I'm out now.
Yeah, he's not going out there throwing 10 innings, 119 pitches.
Right. Yeah.
True.
Spoiler alert on who our pitcher of the week might be if you guys are big fans of the A10.
Yeah, Trystan Levesque of the University of Rhode Island. 10 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, 119 pitches against ranked Oregon. And they still lost.
And I was going to say, and did they win? No, they did not, because they took him out. He did not lose. They were trying desperately to get him to win at 119 pitches. I didn't look up whether he was a senior or whatnot, but I would have been tempted
I believe he is.
Yeah, at that, this is his like swan song. He could, I don't know what the percentages of guys getting drafted at that level are, but typically a senior at that point probably not getting drafted, even with the results he's might be giving up. So
he's
like,
a graduate
why not
student, so he's even older.
just keep throwing him out there. Like he you don't need to protect. Well, maybe they want to protect his arm for the rest of the season, but like, why not? Why not just keep going him out there, make history? Because I'm sure he didn't want to come out, but I mean, what an incredible performance! I mean, Jared jumped on Rhode Island after they upset Oregon the other night.
Yeah,
and
I got a Rhode Island hat coming, by the way. It's in the mail.
So funny because Jared's like, yeah, I'm all in on Rhode Island. So the next day, he is in on this story from the get-go, because most people are catching on to it towards the 8th, 9th inning when they see that Oregon's still struggling against Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Jared was in it from inning 1 and is like, oh my gosh, this guy's doing this, and like keeping us on, like, in our chat, just constantly up to date. It was just such an incredible performance, really cool to keep track of, and I'm glad we were able to have enough separation with that kind of a performance, because I don't know if 8 innings does the trick with like at that level, but like to do something like this is incredible and was allowed us to give him a national kind of spotlight.
Yeah, you go 10, man, and no runs. Like, I don't know.
You go
9.
10. You go 10. I don't care how many runs you gave up. I might give it to you that way too.
Yeah, it was funny because like I sent you the video of how they lost the game, right? It was an error by the shortstop with like 2 outs, I think. Wasn't great, and I feel bad for that shortstop. I don't know who the Rhode Island shortstop is, but man, that has to be rough. Like, you go out there, your guy just gives you 10 innings, like throws it all on the line, and then he's just like boop, underthrows the first baseman. I don't know if you saw it, Tyler.
I did. I do feel bad for the kid, honestly. Like, especially when you're trying to win the series against a ranked team at their place, mind you.
Yeah.
Like, that in and of itself is pretty impressive, because like this is the top 15 team that we're talking about here. It's no cakewalk for the mid-major just step in there, because most 99% of the time you get blown out. Again, Tennessee, just looking at what they can do. I want to say they outscored their opening weekend opponent. I think it was Hofstra, like 50-4.
Yeah.
That's what you expect out of mid-majors, but Rhode Island put up one hell of a fight. I'll give them credit where credit is due. And there's a whole nother thing you talk about with, sending a guy to do 10 innings in a start like this. But me and Jared talked about this off camera. Like, as a mid-major, it's you go out there doing your best to try and get that marquee win on your schedule. Because again, this is an A10 squad. Like, A10 is only going to get one bid into the tournament this year. And that's an early test. So they treat it differently, as much as throwing 119 pitches in 10 innings the second week of season. Not the greatest idea, but giving you the potential to beat a team at the caliber of Oregon that's been to super regional in the past calendar year. I'd say he's pretty happy with making the decision that was made, and hopefully it all works out for them.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at the history of Trystan Levesque. He pitched in the Cape too. So he was in the Cape at one point. And he actually had a really good sophomore year or junior year. I think he struck out 101 batters in 83 innings. So,
I mean, there are some dudes at the mid-major, like they're dudes that we just never find out about, just because they don't necessarily have this, the stuff that the bigger programs are looking for, and yet they dominate at a lower level. Even though, I mean, you said he had like an 87 mile an hour fastball.
Yeah, average. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and yet he's able, like, it's somebody who can paint, but that, that's not something that, some of the bigger schools are looking for, even though his results kind of speak for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, you see it like in Clemson's got a lefty in like the high 80s. Like, those guys, if they can spot up the zone.
Darden.
Yep.
Shout out Ethan Darden.
Jacob McGovern too.
Yep.
Also Jacob McGovern, very soft tossing. They're both lefties, right? Or
yeah they're both lefties.
Yeah, I mean, if you can find the zone, like, more power to you. We have to talk about the hitter of the week, Paxton Kling, former LSU Tiger, transferred to Penn State. Just going through these numbers, he was 7 for 13, 7 runs scored, double, 4 home runs, 6 RBIs, 2 hit by pitches, 2 stolen bases for a 538, 600, 1538 slash. Not as good as Merrick Houston, but that is a real nice weekend.
We don't need to bring up Merrick.
Just go throw it in there. Gonna do a little compare and contrast. Tyler, what do you got on Paxton? I know
His
you.
week is over.
We're moving on.
I think the biggest thing with Kling is finally having the opportunity to show out at this stage. Like, he never got sufficient playing time at LSU. Struggled last year as a sophomore, which he was draft eligible. He was an older sophomore, eligible by a couple months. I think it's like a late May birthday. And he was always a power speed threat in high school in Pennsylvania. So having that opportunity to now get full-time opportunities that he has, you're going to start seeing more of that power and that speed. There's some questions with the hit tool. I think he's got something like a bloated whiff rate to start the year already. But you look at what he's been able to do, like 3 home runs in one day is impressive as it is. And he's a big catalyst for that Penn State lineup right now, which looks really, really good because of Mike Gambino.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
He's got
Mike
him
Gambino
in.
is really good.
The great Gambino.
But I'd like to see how Kling kind of looks at the, like, further down the line. Like, this could be a pretty interesting junior pick. Actually, he'll be 22.1 on draft day. But like, if he keeps this up the full year, he could be an interesting pick in the draft. I'm just not sure where just yet. But if he keeps this pace up, I wouldn't be shocked if we're looking at a guy that's like somewhere in that round 5 to 7 range come July 13th.
Yeah, Monty, you saw Paxton this fall, right?
Yeah, I was really impressed. He had 2 lasers, 105 plus off the bat. I don't think either left the ballpark. I know one was a triple off the wall. I think the other was a single, actually, that was just smoked. I have heard that he struggles with pitching that's over 95, which is why he struggled typically in SEC play, because the SEC just has guys out of just infinite guys out of the bullpen that throw mid to high 90s for some reason. So I've heard that he does struggle a little bit. Yeah, he did struggle for in conference play when he did get some opportunities at LSU. But, if he can, work up to that, because the pressure of being that highly touted a freshman and sophomore at LSU is really tough. And then the fact that you weren't, there's not much patience because of the talent pool they have. Whereas, he's going to get the chance to fail a little bit and not lose his job, which is really probably a really nice thing to have. That freedom, knowing that you're going to play a little bit looser, right? You're not going to be as stressed. So I think that's going to be important to see. I think a fresh environment. I was hoping this kind of thing would happen. Obviously, it's 2 weeks in, so we want to see that continue for him, because he's a guy I really like, and I'm really excited to see him play in person. But I was hoping a change of atmosphere, a change of setting would really help him getting back to his roots. And one of the things I love about Penn State and Pittsburgh is that they love to go back and get those kids, those transfers that are from the area, and bring them back home. I love that. You got that local flair.
Yeah, and it probably gives him some comfortability too, right? Like, he's at home, he's got comfort, and like you said, he doesn't have to worry about kind of losing his position, which is really nice. Last thing we're going to talk about before we wrap up, and this is going to be for Tyler, we're going to talk about the MLB Draft Spotlight Player of the Weekend. I'm sure Monty will have a lot of facial expressions during this one, just like he did during Jamie Arnold's discussion. We're going to highlight Patrick Forbes out of Louisville.
Really, you're doing ACC guys on purpose, aren't you?
Maybe, we don't know.
For what it's worth, it was down to Liam Doyle, Corbin Dickerson, and Forbes. So
2 of those guys are Louisville guys.
Are they?
Corbin Dickerson is from.
He is, yes, technically.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, wait, he's on Indiana. Don't throw me off.
Sorry, Jared.
It took me a second to process, but then I was like, oh yeah, he's got a point.
I thought my computer froze again.
It could be.
You guys just both sat there like.
What if we were frozen?
Our internet's gone out.
Yeah, we're gone. See ya.
So the biggest thing with Patrick Forbes is looking at what he's been able to change from last year to this year. When we saw him at the ACC tournament in Charlotte, he was more of like a low 90s, 93 guy with a sweeper, and then came out that at Team USA was 94, 97 with a metric fastball that scouts are going to love personally from a data standpoint. Like it's a low release height, super flat, kind of a dead zone shape, but you look at what he's able to do at the velo that he's had. He's now up to 98, I think is what he touched last week. And he's been consistently 94 and 97. And that's just really led to that pitch breaking out in a big way. And I think with him, the command's there. And there's just a lot more to like there than, say, like a Liam Doyle, where there's a bunch of effort to kind of mix into it. And you kind of wonder, how does that maintain at the next level? I think with Forbes, he's only walked one guy across 2 starts, and that was the walk against Texas. Struck out 11 against Texas, struck out 9 the other day against Western Michigan, and only allowed like 2 hits, so it was 5 scoreless. So looking at what he's been able to do, obviously the fastball is a big part of it, but he's also got some more advanced secondaries. Like he's turned in that sweeper in the low 80s, upper 70s. It's more of like a low 80s slider now. He's got a cutter in there that hovers around 89, 90. He's got feel for a changeup. So the development he's made over the past, 8 to 12 months has been pretty stark. And for me, I think there's a case for him to potentially be like a starting pitcher 4 in this class behind, obviously, Arnold Bremner and Kyson Witherspoon. So I think he's in that mix with like Matt Scott. You can maybe throw Liam Doyle in there as a guy that would make some sense. Like Gage Wood was maybe a case for it until he got hurt today. I'm not too sure what the issue is there, but looking at what we can do there, like Cade Anderson's another guy to throw into that bunch. So that SP4 discussion is going to be something to look forward to for the next few months. Like there's a lot of guys you can throw in there, and I think Forbes might have the best chance to be that guy. And I'm really, really excited to see what he's able to do moving forward for that Louisville ball club, because I think Louisville is going to be sneaky good in the ACC.
Yeah, and I mean that's part of it. He's part of the main reason why they're ranked, right? Like for us, and he just absolutely dominated a Texas lineup. I see Monty's about to pop over there, so I might as well turn it over to him. He's probably going to be over there being like, "I told you so. Forbes is really good."
I just wanted to throw out that I've been talking in a private chat. Nobody's paying attention to it.
Oh, sorry.
I've been adding comments so that I wouldn't pop over here. But then,
get a doors for Patrick Forbes.
But I did tell you so. By the way, I was texting Tyler during the Team USA stuff when his velocity was out of, like, all of a sudden jacked up. And then I watched every one of his Cape Cod starts twice because I had to write about him for Prospects Live in the fall, if you recall, which Jared read. So he knows. He knows I told you so.
Yeah. Yep.
He's my dark horse candidate for ACC Pitcher of the Year. But I also was just trying to throw in Logan Lunsford possibly into that. I know that's a bit of a dark horse candidate. But the way what Mascara has done with him to start this year has been just lights out. As Tyler looks like he's finally responding to me. But yeah, no, I just you guys chose one of my favorites, so I was over here trying to just let you talk, but at the same time, like, let me in.
I do like that you brought up Lunsford too, because he's another guy that, like, 2 years at Mizzou. More Mizzou slander, by the way. Sorry, guys. But
that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, and like looking at what they've been able to do, like Lunsford obviously struggled missing bats with the fastball, despite having, like, it was good metrically. It has a bunch of carry to it. I think he's now got like a 35% whiff rate in the fastball through 2 starts. The changeup looks really good. It's always been good. The curveball is starting to take a turn better, I think. And it's just that sequencing, that pitchability that he has. He can pitch backwards. He's got the fastball to really set guys up, and then goes to that changeup, go to that curveball to really finish him off. I think he struck out 13 against whoever Wake played this past weekend. I can't remember who it was.
St. John's.
St. John's.
Yep.
Yeah, so Lunsford's an interesting guy.
Tournament team.
Yes.
It's true.
Absolutely. Jimmy Keenan came from St. John's, if I remember correctly.
Yep, you are correct. Was their best hitter by far.
Yep, and now he's at Wake.
Sorry. and now I'm insulting St. John's. It's fine.
We're just gonna get some angry emails from SIDs this week. It's fine. We really do apologize, guys. If you want to send us some hats or shirts or something, please do.
We're pretending the SIDs actually listen to our podcast, so
I'm sure there's some that do.
I know. There's some that do, definitely. I'm more joking. Anyways, I think that kind of wraps it up for us story-wise. Does anybody have anything? Final thoughts? Monty, we'll go to you first. Any final thoughts?
By the time this comes out, I will be on my way to Greenville for my first trip to East Carolina and the Jungle. They host the finale. They've hosted the finale against UNC. UNC has already clinched that series for the first time since 2022, but they're going for the sweep. UNC, obviously, they are up close to our top 5, I would imagine. I think number 6. But obviously, they've just been very casually dominant. They have 1 home run on the year, and yet they've owned the Big 12, and they just beat ECU. So Kansas State, who just went 3-0, UNC beat them. So, without hitting a home run. And the pitching is just fantastic. They're able to pull out Folger Boaz out of the bullpen, just casually. It's really impressive stuff. But I'm excited about that. Excited to see that atmosphere the first time.
I'm jealous. I watched that game today, and it was awesome.
Yeah. I'm very excited about it. The weather should be better up there than when I left it last week, so that's nice. And then, of course, Penn State, Boston College, Richmond, VCU, William & Mary. I get to see all those big schools, big programs, playing in the Central Virginia Classic.
I love it.
With Tyler.
Yeah. Tyler, what do you got for final thoughts?
Yeah, obviously finish up Indiana tomorrow because of the schedule setback, but Friday, Eddie Smink, Stony Brook goes up to UNC, so I'll be able to see him finally. And he's a very interesting metric arm for this upcoming draft, but then obviously travel up to go see Monty because he kind of forced me to. He's going to hold me hostage with his dogs, but in all honesty, I'm looking forward to finally seeing this Penn State team, even if it is against VCU and William & Mary. VCU has had some pretty big names to come out of there the past couple of years. Look at Brian Curley for Georgia. He was there last year. Mm-hmm. They competed pretty well in the Greenville regional last year as well. So I'm pretty excited to see what happens with them. It's going to be nice to see some more bats. And I think Ryan DeSanto's another guy that's kind of underrated on the draft scene too for Penn State. So I'm pretty excited. And then we get ACC play to start after. So,
love it.
Big ups. We're through non-conference play, basically.
I'm interested to see VCU because they've had a ton of turnover. Like their best players either graduated or went to Georgia, Florida State, NC State, or Maryland. So, they're 4 underclassmen, like 4 best underclassmen, 2 pitchers, 2 position players, all transferred. Their player of the year, who was a former North Carolina Tar Heel, he graduated. And then the guy who shut down Wake Forest graduated. Did I say retired? I meant graduated. If I said retired.
I think you said
retired. You said graduated.
Okay, they graduated. I thought I said retired, but yeah. But anyway, really exciting stuff. Tyler's turned his light off, so we can't see him anymore.
Yeah, I can see him.
Oh, there he is. He's back.
Oh, your computer screen light. I was like, wait, what? I will not be. Well, maybe we'll be at VCU versus Penn State.
He's gonna get FOMO. He's gonna get FOMO on Friday, and we'll see him on Saturday.
It's like a 20% chance, depending on things.
And just like the weather, it'll go up steadily over the course of the week.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I get to see Maine versus George Washington. All right, apparently George Washington has a guy who's 5'7".
According to a guy.
He's like, the catcher's one to watch, and then Rekka sends me a message. He's like, but he's 5'7", and I was like, gotcha, okay.
Well, you know who the number 1 prospect for some people in the 2026 draft is only 5'8". So I mean, just saying,
it's true. Dustin Pedroia also,
he was
pretty good at baseball.
I mean, Altuve's probably the better comps for that. He was,
Pedroia won the MVP though.
But no, I meant Pedroia because I think Pedroia was like 5'9".
Was he? We're investigating this in the podcast. Give me 1 second.
We're doing it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Missouri.
It says 5'9", but I don't believe he's 5'9". I don't.
Hey,
believe
another
it.
one to throw in there, Tamar Johnson. Short king. Short
I
Was he
interviewed-
really? I somehow did not know that.
I interviewed Samad Taylor once, and he was listed at like 5'9", 5'10", and on the podcast he's like, "Yeah, I'm 5'7", and I was like, "All right."
At that
We
point,
love
just
all
out
the-
yourself.
Yeah.
That's some
He was like,
short
"I'm
king
5'7"
energy,
or
though.
5'8". I was like, "Hey,
I love the ones that just don't care.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
everyone else cares, but they're just like, so what? I crush baseballs anyway.
yeah."
Exactly.
Other things we'll have too. We'll have a top 25 update dropping hopefully tomorrow morning. We'll have like a recap going out as well of just the entire weekend's news. Monty will have Monty's musings, I believe, week 2 coming your way.
Yep.
Tyler's working on some other things like draft board updates. So we'll have tons of content coming your way. Got an interview with RJ Austin. Monty, yes, it's finally dropping. So
I know. I think that should be a bit from now on. Don't ever release it. Just every week say it's coming.
RJ Austin's gonna make his major league debut, and then we'll release it.
Yeah, just like the Matt Damon bit on Jimmy Kimmel when he's like, Matt Damon's joining us the show. Just we ran out of time. Sorry, Matt Damon, but in reality, it's just RJ Austin.
Yeah. So yeah, we got plenty of content coming your way. We'll be back next week to recap everybody's live looks. Everybody's apparently at VCU but me, so it'll be a great time for everyone. So we'll see you next time.